I mean, I've also heard older people saying, right, what's the value add now, right? What's the value add of Straits Times that I cannot get from other mainstream or online media, right? Why should people pay for it? Like, what is it? What's the it factor of Straits Times?
The Straits Times has a privileged position and a burden, okay? And it's something that we don't take lightly. We actually are many things rolled into one. Let me explain. For example, we are in a weird way a village newspaper, right? In that we're a small community, we're a small society. We have that. We need to be able to reflect that ground up feeling. We are also a small country newspaper. Singapore's a small country. So we're a national paper as well. We're a local paper. We are also an international paper because we're in English, and we are a regional paper because we cover the region as well as we do. So we are, in a way, all things to everyone. Most other publications, unless you're a public service broadcasters, don't have that kind of overwhelming sense of all your audience. So the value that I see that the Straits Times has is firstly, in terms of our local coverage, in our local knowledge, in the experience of our journalists, is quite unparalleled, right? That's one. Two, because we serve such a wide audience, or we like to believe that we serve such a wide audience, our role as the, how would you say it, the protector of the mainstream middle is something that you should not diminish in value.
Can you elaborate?
That's where the term mainstream media comes from. What is the mainstream? Basically, not only are you conveying what is meant to be mainstream, you're meant to be reflective of the mainstream, right? That is what keeps us grounded and not sort of pulled to one extreme or the other, as you see what happens in other countries in terms of polarization and publications having one very extreme political leaning or the other. We are mainstream, but I don't particularly like that term as much because it really doesn't mean as much as it used to mean.
Right.
So I like to see as really we are reflective of this broad mainstream middle. That not only do we reflect it, I would like to believe in that the way we tell our stories, the way that we project ourselves also seeks to protect it a little bit, in terms of modeling what kind of discourse does Singapore need to have? When you see the kind of polarizing discourse that is happening other places in other countries, and sometimes here in Singapore as well, there's so much polarization, there's so much, it's either A or it's B, it's so black and white, it's so extreme. But the Straits Times, the value that we have is that people must know that we are trying to build that middle, protect that middle. And therefore, when you read us, this is our best effort at reflecting that. Now, because of the fact that there is some degree of polarization and differing views, how we do that gets more and more difficult, right? Because there'll be more and more criticisms.
Yeah.
And your space in the middle may not be growing.
Right.
But we will protect it. That is our job. For lack of a better word, as mainstream media.
So that's very fascinating to me, right? So because first of all, for every issue there will be different middles, right? So
Yes.
you have to protect different different. So then the second one is what was fringe eventually becomes mainstream, right? I mean, maybe 20 years ago the idea of minimum wage was a fringe idea, right? So how do you deal with that as a national?
So that's the thing. Again, we must not expect, and audiences should not have that unrealistic expectation that we are perfect and that we are perfect mirror at every stage in time. We are also human beings. We are a newsroom which works on best endeavors processes, right? And we will try to be reflective as much as possible. Sometimes in the eyes of a majority or in the eyes of a minority, when we get it wrong, right? Sure. And then we will find ways to correct it. That's what a healthy newsroom needs to do. It's a process. The minute you believe that I'm set, this is my mandate, this is my audience, then that's where polarization has already happened. The very fact that you have these skirmishes on the side is reflective of the fact that we're trying our best in a more and more complicated news environment. So yes, on the one hand, as you say, mainstream changes, sort of society moves along, we must move along as well. And we need to keep ourselves grounded, be aware of what's happening. Now, the question then is, do we follow these trends? Do we reflect these trends? Do we get ahead of these trends? Or do we fall very significantly far behind? Right. I don't think firstly, we should fall very far behind. That's for sure. Should we be at the forefront of it? I don't think we need to be at the forefront of it as well. So in that space, we need to find our way to be reflective of, but respectful of the broad, as I said, the broad middle.